Great morning, great morning, great morning. It is Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. We are here live in the studio, guys. Listen, as we are every single Tuesday morning from 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here on WDRB. I'm your host, Mickey D, the host of the It's About You radio show on WDRB Media, the voice of the community. Listen, guys, it is a pleasure to be with you, as I said, every Tuesday morning. I don't take that for granted. If you're having breakfast, thank you for the breakfast. Give me another cup of coffee. If you're in the gym, getting that last lap in, hey, I'm here to support you. You know, this show every Tuesday is about you. That's why I call it that, because you are the most important person in your day today. You're the most important person that's going to make the right decisions to fulfill your lives, to fulfill your potential. And I always want to start every single Tuesday morning with the morning motivation with Mickey D. Listen, today's quote is very simple. Your potential is endless. Go out and make it a great day. Let me say that one more time. Your potential is endless. Go out and make it a great day. Fulfill everything that you're supposed to do. No more excuses. No more setbacks. No more blaming others. No more anything except moving forward. Moving forward in your greatness, because it is about you. Oftentimes we have problems in our lives. You were born poor. You were born male. You were born female. You were born whatever. You were adopted. You are whatever it is, doesn't matter. You're here. You came in the world a champion. You came in. Remember, you were the one that found the egg. Hello, you found the egg. You were there. So therefore, you were a winner. Now, whether you feel like you're a winner or not, it's your choice. But I'm asking you this morning to choose to go out and make it a great day. Choose to no more excuses. Choose to go back to school. Choose to do whatever it is you're supposed to do. Plant your flag right where you're supposed to be. And no matter what comes your way, you said, I'm going to make it, because it is about me, because I was created for greatness. That has been your morning motivation with Mickey D. Listen, this has been brought to you by MauriceMcDonald.net. MauriceMcDonald.net. Go there and learn all about your amazing microbiomes, your gut health, guys. Listen, today we got a great show, and I'm so thrilled. I am ecstatic to talk to the individual and have you introduce the world to someone that I think is very, very fantastic. I had the pleasure of meeting her about 2 years ago, and as a student came into my class. And let me tell you, one thing as educators, you see all types of students that come in. And every now and then you will see a gem, somebody that stands out, that's like a diamond in the rough, and there's something about them that you know they're destined for greatness. They separate themselves. Well, today's guest is that type of person. That's who she is. Her name is Christina Olmstead, and she is a fantastic person. I will have her to introduce herself and tell a little bit about her background. But the topic today is something that most people don't think about. I always choose topics that are going to be thought-provoking, topics that are going to be challenging, topics that everybody can relate to. And today's topic, I believe many people want to relate to. And that is about getting older, growing older, becoming a senior citizen. Most people don't think about that, and we're going to be talking about that today. So with that said, I'm going to introduce and welcome to the studio, Christina Olmstead. Christina, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for a great introduction. That was awesome.
Hey, that's exactly right. I meant every word of it because, as I said, when you walked in the class years ago and you were that person, I identified something in you. And immediately I started to get you involved with our Human Service Club and all types of things. And you did a fantastic job. So with that said, tell the audience who you are and what you do.
Sure. So I'm Christina Olmstead. Tying in with Mr. McDonald's introduction earlier, I am actively working with our aging community members. So currently, I am the fundraising manager at Council on Aging in Union County, where we are supporting our entire county, not only in the aging process, but their caregivers and then other professionals as well.
All right. So you say Union County. We're talking about North Carolina.
We
The
are.
Council on Aging. When you hear about that, what first and foremost, this isn't something that a lot of people say, "Hey, I'm going to go to college and get my degree. I'm going to wake up one day and I'm going to go work with senior citizens." What sparked you to want to think about this profession?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was a young child at the age of 11, my story unfortunately brought me to experiencing a household and environment of domestic violence. At that time, my mom was a survivor. However, ultimately, she became the ultimate victim to domestic violence. So when I lost my mom at that young age, I was taken in by my grandparents. So from the age of 11 on, I really had that unique perspective of seeing the aging process from a very different viewpoint. So when I'm in that household and I'm 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, all the way through the terrible teenager I was, I'm still looking at my grandparents and seeing them go from very mobile, active adults and transitioning all the way through end of life. So you're seeing those challenges. You're seeing them try to navigate Veterans Affairs and trying to figure out those resources. You're trying to navigate in home services, house cleaning, house maintenance. Seeing them try to go through, how do I clean my gutters? Just something very simple like that. When you're looking at, how am I going to get these sheets off my bed so I can clean them? I know I get winded half the time when I'm trying to change the sheets in my household. So you're looking at that and seeing them age through the process. I think that aging is one of those things that none of us wants to think about, but it's also one of those things that you cannot avoid. So having gone through that experience, it made me view the world a little bit differently. I'm walking through and I'm looking at all of those challenges. So when I came to Council on Aging and I found this organization that really promotes that active aging, I was like, oh, I'm home. This is where I belong.
Absolutely. Hearing you say how you got into this beginning, your thought process, it was a personal
Mm-hmm.
process. I too can identify with that, being a survivor of domestic violence at a young age, and you were and losing your mom, you were thrust into your profession without knowing it, and I believe it is so important to have a personal connection to any profession that you choose to go into, because now it becomes a why. It's not a job anymore. It is
Um,
something, a passion that you
it
take. Yeah, and I think about the things you just said. Our audience now, probably there's somebody listening right now that's been in your shoes or walk in your shoes right now, or they're currently in a situation of having an elderly parent, and the idea of changing the sheets on the bed, or buying groceries, or trying to navigate the steps that are in the house. So I'm sure there's somebody identifying with this, because I think about my own journey of laughing at my father as he was getting older, because he had to have bifocals and he was stretching his arms out so far trying to read, and I would pull his arm back in when I was younger and say, "Hey, Dad, why do you pull your arm back in and read it closer?" And I'm laughing at him, and he looked at me in his Jamaican accent. He was said to me, he said, "Boy, just keep breathing, boy." He said, "40's got some jokes and 50's hilarious. As you get older, you will find out." So, and then of course, when I got there, I found out, yeah, life changes. It was funny to me at the time, but when you're young, that's not something that you think about. So, with that said, what is like your professional background, and that you've taken your education to work in this field?
Absolutely. So I actually have an undergraduate degree in psychology. So when I was younger, I went to undergrad. I have my psychology degree with a minor in business management. When I graduated, I thought that I wanted to be a therapist. So when I first entered the field, I was incredibly lucky where I spent some time with the neuropsychologist in Charlotte and was administering and scoring neuropsychological tests. So I got that direct contact one on one with patients as they were coming in, being assessed for Alzheimer's, dementia, traumatic brain injury, ADHD. After I spent a few years in that role, life happened. So my plan had always been to go back to school, but I got married. I had a couple of kids, and life does one of these zigzag routes where you thought you were going to go straight and you end up taking about 5,000 U turns. You don't even know where you ended up. So once the pandemic happened, I was taken back from my corporate role so that I could care for my children. But during that time frame, I really took a long look at what it is I was doing and how that aligned with my own morals, values, and goals. And what I found is that it wasn't. I was in the corporate world, I was working for a big business, and it just didn't feel passionate in my heart. So I decided that I was going to go back to school. I was like, great, I'm going to get my master's. It's going to be awesome. Well, I applied to get my master's and I did not get accepted. I didn't get accepted. So I was like, okay, you know what? Let's reroute. And that's where I came to Central Piedmont Community College and I met Mr. McDonald here when I was getting my continuing education in human services tech. So from there, I went through that amazing program. I cannot say enough good things about CPCC and that program because it truly changed the trajectory of my life. From that program, I did my work. I found counsel on aging. I reapplied for my master's, and right now I'm halfway through the program of my master's in social work at UNCC.
Absolutely. That journey, the zigzags. So this is another whole topic you've just given me for a later date. There, hey, life is no straight line, you know. I
It
love
is not.
that. It is not a straight line. It will zigzag when you, oh my goodness. And your job is to hold on because it's going to flip you up and upside down physically and emotionally. But I tell you, now that you have been there, let's talk about aging. What are some of the stats or some of the idea about aging? Because I know there's somebody that may be 30 years old listening to this thinking, well, this doesn't apply to me. What are some of the thoughts or our numbers look like or in the country right now about aging?
Yeah, absolutely. So for those who think it doesn't apply to me, I have a surprise for you. It absolutely does. It absolutely does. So right now, our country and our state is aging at a pace that has never been seen before in history. When I say that, that means that we are going to have more aging older adults than we do children and younger adults. So right now, when we're looking at adults that are 65 years and older, by the year 2030, 1 in 5 Americans is going to fall within that age group. So 1 in 5 are going to be 65 years and older. And that means within about the next 25 years, 23% of our population here is going to be categorized as a senior citizen. That is almost a quarter of our entire country, which is mind blowing. And that's just with our 65 years and older. If we're looking at adults that are 70 to 80, historically, they are outpacing everybody. And they are the largest growing demographic that we have, not only in our country, but globally.
Wow, wow. So if you're there now, 30 years old, you heard what she said. Those numbers are, I mean, mind blowing because most of the times in our culture, you get older, that means you're old, you don't know anything, and in the Western culture, put them out the pasture. They're old geezers, and they drive too slow and everything else. They don't know the internet. They don't know Facebook. They don't know Instagram or Twitter. Yeah, you're right. They get older and they may not know those things. But our society is getting grayer. Our society is doing that, and as you speak, I am in that category. I mean, yes, the idea of turning 65, I remember laughing. When I turned 50, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm 50, and the years just blew by, and when we have children that are about to turn 40, it's a whole new ballgame. But realizing that those stats that you just said, what impact has that had on our society? What would you say?
I would say that I want you to think about this. So we have all of these aging adults. All of them are aging, all of them are older. I want you to think of just one adult and think about how many caregivers they need and have. So we're looking at not only our aging group, we're looking at their children, their husbands, their wives, their nieces, their nephews. We're encompassing all of those people who are going to be caregiving for those older adults, because it's not just about them. We're looking at a very big shift for our younger adults as well. So I'm what would be considered a sandwich generation, where I could potentially be caregiving for both my children and my aging parents at the same time. So imagine that impact that we're going to have societally and economically as we go through the next 30 years.
Oh my goodness! You again, you struck a chord with me. Another reason I chose this topic because I was that person. Having losing parents for Alzheimer's, and turning age 50 and having to bury one parent, and 6 months later another one is diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and
Mm-hmm.
now there's this decade of taking care of her. She became my total care. This whole point of caretaking, and I wasn't prepared. I
Yep.
mean, you can read all the books. You can, matter of fact, there's not a lot of books written to tell you here's how to take care of your senior citizen. Here's how to take care of your mom. You got your full life. You're still running, doing things you got to do. Lifing, it continues, but you've got a mom who's ill, and you got to take care of financially, emotionally, physically, and I say financial because it's a drain. So you're right.
It,
I wasn't prepared to deal with it,
and
and
a lot of
yeah.
us aren't prepared. And caregiving is a full time job. It is a full time job. So when we're looking at our older neighbors with Alzheimer's or dementia, those are about 7 million people in our population. But we're looking at the 11 million Americans that are providing unpaid care.
Mm.
That is absolutely staggering.
Yes, unpaid care, and not only that, the emotional part with it that came with this. I want to pause right here and put this plug in for somebody to hear this. I strongly encourage individuals to go to counseling.
Yes,
If
absolutely.
if there is, could you speak to that? Because this can be an emotional drain, as well as I said, financially and physically. But that part about the emotion, because oftentimes you'll see um, caretakers snapping at their parents, arguing and yelling, and sometimes even get physical because they don't understand. Could you speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we are looking at our caregivers, at Council on Aging, we look at two different aspects. So we're going to be looking at those physical impacts. As a caregiver, we're going to be looking at your health, because are you taking care of yourself? If you're not taking care of yourself physically, if you're not resting, if you're not sleeping, if you're not eating, if you're not meeting those basic needs for yourself, meeting the basic needs for another person is increasingly difficult. So we want to make sure that you're putting your face mask on first so that you can care for someone else. And then when we're looking at those social and those mental supports, it's absolutely crucial to rely on not only your community, but counseling and therapy. At Council on Aging, we have a family caregiver support program where we have group sessions. Jessie is amazing. She's the one that's the head of that program here. And We meet together as a group every other week and we just talk about those challenges. It's so important to remember that you're not alone because caregiving can feel so isolating. So it's so incredibly important that you make that effort to outreach and rely on those other professionals and the people that are going through it with you.
Oh my gosh, that is so powerful. So what I'm hearing you say is the council on aging is just not taking care of mom or dad or the aunt or uncle. It's the whole family, holistic approach because the caregivers, who, even if you have the money to do it, the emotional drain that comes with that, it sounds like it can be a real, real difficult thing. And so that holistic approach of taking care of self care is so important for the person who's listening right now, who has a mom and or dad or aunt or grandmother, whomever they're in charge of, and they don't know what to do.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we like to really reinforce is that not only is it okay to take a break, you need to take a break. Sometimes in our society, we get so overwhelmed with, I'm incredibly strong, I'm superwoman, I can do it all, I don't need to rely on others. Rely on others. It's the first thing that we try to talk about.
Rely on others. That support, it is so important. So I'm so glad that you're speaking to this topic. But what were the roles you when you first got to the agency? Because I know now you're in a different role than what you've
Yes.
been. Could you tell us what did you start out with when you first got to your agency working with the seniors?
Yeah, it's actually a running joke here in the office of how long I've been here because I actually started as a volunteer. So I have been here with Council on Aging about 2.5, almost 3 years now. But I started out as a volunteer at our next door clubhouse, which is a respite program for adults with memory loss. So all of our participants that may have been diagnosed with some sort of dementia can come hang out with us. We have a really great, robust program where they have a wonderful time, but more importantly, it gives their caregivers a break. So I started volunteering in there. I loved it so much, I refused to leave. So as I was working my way through the CPCC program, I needed an internship. So I said, hey, by any chance, do y'all need any interns? And they said, absolutely. So I went from volunteer to intern. From there, I put my feet in the ground even more and said, nope, not leaving. And I was offered a position as our home safety assessor for a brand new pilot program that we have, which is our seniors living in place program. So I'll talk about that in a little bit because I'm really passionate about it. That program's my baby. I love it. And then after some time spent with that part-time position, I was ultimately promoted to my current role of fundraising manager, which is the first role that we've had.
Right, right. So those of you who are listening right now, remember on a footnote or side note to this is don't be afraid to volunteer. Agency, many things come out of volunteering because the experience and finding out if you really, really want this and those types of things. And not only that, she was providing a service, in home, helping people because there's so many people that want their independence. They live at home, but they have difficulty. They need some guidance. They need somebody to go and assess the house and to see the safety things that are going on. So sounds like to me that's what you did, some of those roles. And so um, tell us a little bit about that role.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to throw some other facts and stats at you really fast. But when we're looking at home safety for our older neighbors, we're looking at a couple of different things. The first, of course, is going to be fall prevention. So if I'm sitting here and I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, if I make it all the way to 11 seconds, one older community member is in the hospital from a fall. So we've been chatting for a few minutes here. We could probably easily say we've got about 100 people that are now in the hospital because they fell at home. 1 out of 4 adults age 65 years and older will fall. So we are looking at a lot of falls and a lot of injuries. And then I believe about each year, 30,000 adults that are age 65 and older unfortunately die from their fall. When we are also thinking about home safety, we're looking at fire prevention. So if you are 65 to 74 years of age, you are twice as likely to die in a home fire than somebody that is younger than you. When you get to age 85 and older, you have the highest risk of dying in a house fire out of all of our other age groups. So when we were sitting here looking in our community, looking at the fall rates, looking at the fire rates, which you would be astonished in your own communities, we said we have to do something. What is going to be a way that we can see this need and meet it? And that's when we developed our pilot program, which is Seniors Living in Place. And with that program, we are doing individual living space assessments. So we're having our home safety advisor, come to your house, and she's going to do a holistic view of your house. She's looking for hazards. She's looking for potential fall hazards. She's looking at fire safety. She's looking at medical response. So each home that we visit is going to have that individualized attention to their home. They're going to receive a medical alert button. They're going to receive fire safety equipment. And then if needed, we're going to refer them to our other programs, such as building handrails, ramps, installing grab bars into their house. So you mentioned that holistic approach that we do at Council on Aging. We're doing that right here in our home safety program too.
Wow. This is fantastic. Fantastic. Listen, we're going to take a quick break and we'll come back and finish talking about this amazing topic. Guys, this first half of the It's About You radio show is brought to you by MauriceMcDonald.net. MauriceMcDonald.net. Go and learn about great gut health. We'll be right back.
I've known for a while now that inflammation, brain fog, low energy, and gut issues were all connected. But I honestly didn't realize how much I was out of balance and wasn't firing on all cylinders until I felt what it felt like to actually fire on all cylinders. I love the way I feel, and I genuinely look forward to taking these products every single day.
I love the Healthy Edge pack. It allows me to be more energized throughout the day. My recovery time from the gym is better, and I just feel a sense of well-being and vitality. My sleep is on point. I get restful sleep, because a lot of people sleep but they don't get restful sleep. That combination of P84 and Protandim is a 1-2 lights out punch, guys. I love it.
My hormones were out of whack, my gut health was bad, my sleep was off, my energy was off. A friend reached out to me, talked about a little yellow pill and a couple packs of powder. My health has never been better. My number 2 is great, if you know what I mean, and your number 2 does not lie on how your gut health is. These little packets of powder and this one little yellow pill has completely changed my health.
After introducing the Healthy Edge stack, something clicked. I'm sleeping soundly now. Restful nights, waking up refreshed, feeling renewed, digestion regularity. It feels amazing. And if you're listening, here's what I know for sure. Small, consistent choices compound into a life you're excited to live.
If you want to learn more about the Healthy Edge Stack, simply go to MauriceMcDonald.net, MauriceMcDonald, and learn about that Healthy Edge Stack. Do it today. Hey guys, we're back. And here today, we're talking about senior citizens. We're talking about working with senior citizens, folks with Alzheimer's, or just the aging population, because we just heard some amazing stats talking about the idea of we're getting older, we're getting grayer as a society, and that's not looking any better. We're here with Christina Olmstead, and she's been sharing some information. So, Christina, you were talking about the program that you have there and how they go and do an assessment of the homes of the, you call them clients. You said community clients, right? Is that the term you use? Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah, we typically refer to them as our neighbors.
Right. Yeah. So finish telling us about that program and things that you do now as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So that program, like I said, takes a really big holistic approach to home safety, because our mission here is to help support that successful and active aging while keeping people independently and in their home for as long as possible. And I think that sometimes there's this misconception that if you're getting supportive services or if you're reaching out to us, it's that, oh, we're going to have you institutionalized and put into a nursing home. That could not be further from the truth. We really want to support that in-home aging so that people can age with dignity, but also with confidence.
Yeah, that's powerful what you just said about, age with dignity. Because I noticed one of the things for me that was a part of trying to have my mom have her dignity, making sure her hair was taken care of, because she had to go to assisted living facilities, and the cost, oh my gosh, phenomenal, just it was ridiculous, and she was in a private facility, and that part. So I had to go to counseling myself because all of the things, and I knew, and my background is counseling. Initially, there was some resistance. The days that she forgot who I was, the days that it was that, and it was in counseling, because going back and plugging that again, because the change happened, because I was in group with 15 other people, and there was a person leading the group who'd been through both parents with Alzheimer's. And so she was leading the group, and I was venting about how she was cursing and those types of things. And she said to me, she said, record your mother, record her. She's upset. She recognizes you. There's going to come a time when she doesn't recognize your voice and you wish she would curse you. And that part was really powerful. So that counseling part was very good to help people go through the process itself. So tell us about, I think when we look at having the support for the individuals who wants to have their independence, they still want to drive. What would you say to a caregiver in terms of helping them to maintain their dignity and learn everything else that they have to learn as well?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, when you are talking with a parent or someone older that you're caregiving for, it is to become comfortable having those hard conversations. I know a lot of the times, and I'm guilty of this too, if I see something that is concerning to me, I'm going to be defensive. I'm going to push it out of my brain. Maybe I'll put on my rose-colored glasses for a little bit, and I'll avoid it for as long as possible, because it can be very difficult to come to your mom and your dad and say, hey, I'm worried about your safety. Can we talk about driving? So a suggestion that we have for that is to involve a neutral third party, whether that's going to a counselor together, whether that's visiting your local council on aging to have resources that are readily available. But the most important thing, no matter what stage you're going through, is that communication and having the strength to have that conversation.
Yeah, there's a terminology. Wow, thank you so much for that you've heard us say many times. I know when I'm in the classroom, I always tell the students we have to get comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Yes,
Even
absolutely.
though, having that tough conversation, even though when you want to yell and you want, to do certain things, because I did find that the roles changed.
Mm-hmm.
I had to become the parent to my parent. And that's oftentimes, what are your thoughts along those lines when you have to care for everything and you got to be in charge?
Well, I think the first thing that's most important is to acknowledge the grieving process that goes with that transition. You've relied on your parents for your whole life. They're your support. And it can feel like somewhat of a loss as those roles get flipped. So acknowledge the sadness in that and acknowledge your grieving process as you go through it. That's the most important thing. When you are doing that transition, please reach out to family and friends, because based off those numbers I gave to you earlier, I can guarantee you they're going through the exact same thing. So reach out to those that you know and come together and just have those conversations, especially if you need to practice or run some things by someone else. Family members or friends are going to be an amazing social support for you.
Yeah. Also, I found through my experience as well, families sometimes didn't understand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that can
because
happen as well.
yeah, they thought, oh, you're stealing your mother's money, or you're why don't you do this for your mother? They may criticize what you are doing. They're not in the trenches with you,
Yep.
and
And that also goes back to the grieving process too. That denial can be a very big part of it. So recognizing where you are in your process related to family dynamics can also be important. It can be a very difficult, what feels like a burden sometimes, to be how you feel the only person that is seeing a problem and addressing it. But that's why we always recommend a support group. We always recommend individual therapy if you're able to.
right, or a combination of both. And
Absolutely.
sometimes, because it was in that support group for me that really, really helped me understand I was not alone. Because here I was, retiring from my first career, in law enforcement, about to do that, thinking I'm going to do this. And suddenly now I'm going through 12 years of losing both parents and that struggle of back and forth. And even though my master's in counseling, I understand the process, but I could not counsel myself.
Nope.
I had,
It's different when you go through it yourself.
yeah.
It
Oh,
is.
it is like, it's kind of like this, someone watching someone take a bath or shower versus you being in the water. You can imagine, or you see the shower there. Oh, you see the water running. Oh, I wonder what that feels like. But when you're in the trenches, reality hits, and it
I
hits
always
hard.
say you can coach a diver to do these beautiful dives off the highest platform, but you get up there and take that dive and see what happens. A lot of us are
Oh,
going to belly flop.
oh, the belly flop is hey, and the fall down is can be traumatic,
It
as,
can.
as well. So yes, so I mean that part is so real. But I think along that same line, well, you had mentioned about other agencies and seeking a counsel on agencies. Let's take a look at some maybe global. Let's say somebody's listening to this and they're in California or
Mhm.
they're in South Carolina or Georgia someplace, and they're wondering how can I find agencies that can help me in this predicament. If I need the counseling, I've got a scene. I got both parents. I don't know. They're driving me crazy. What do I do?
Well, this is going to be an easy one somewhat because if you Google council on aging with your county, no matter where you are in the United States, I am willing to bet that they are going to have a location in your county. So there are council on agings that are all across the United States. Now, all of us are independently run and managed, so services will be different. But at the very start, reach out to your local council on aging because if they don't have a direct service, they are at least going to have the information and the resources that are local to you and relevant to you ready for you.
Yeah, so the Council on Aging is truly that. It is a council for sure, no doubt, helping individuals go through the difficult times. As I just mentioned a moment ago, someone who may have Alzheimer's or a dementia, those types of things. But can you tell what's one of the better ways to communicate with someone who may have that, who may have Alzheimer's?
The biggest tip that we have is that depending on how they are progressing in the disease, is that the words that are coming out of their mouth, even if they're in anger, if they are upset, it's to communicate with them with a level of emotion. So, although if I have dementia, I may not have the means to communicate with you that I'm scared, that I'm frustrated, that I'm worried, those things might come out as cussing at you or anger. So when you're communicating with a loved one with dementia or Alzheimer's, always remember that emotion that feeling is coming from. And the other tip is to sit with them and meet them where they are. So if I'm talking with someone who says, "Oh my gosh, I'm so excited that I'm going to be going to the disco in 1974." You know what? I'm going to talk to you as we are there in that time frame. I'm not going to argue and say, actually, it's 2024, or no, Mom, there is no disco today. I'm going to have that conversation with you from their viewpoint.
Wow. That part is phenomenal because, again, like I said, I chose this topic because I knew I had gone through this and I knew that, I'm not alone. But that approach of correcting was what I found out in the support group. Even though I had kind of known it, but that temptation to want to correct was there, and in the support group it came out. Stay in their lane, where they are. If it's 1974 in their mind, guess what? We got bell bottoms on, okay? We got platform shoes.
Yes.
We have, yeah, exactly. Because I think trying to correct people in that state, they get more confused and combative. You're trying to, you think I'm crazy, and all of those kinds of things. It is so powerful to stay in that moment. And if they are combative, if they are there, what do you suggest if they've gotten to that point?
That's going to look different for every family. And that's going to be different for the level of, output that's coming from the patient. So I don't have an answer for that one, only because it does look different for everybody. You're going to have some neighbors that you can play music that will calm them down. You're going to have some neighbors where just sitting with them and being silent will calm them down. You'll have some neighbors that just need to go for a walk. What that process, at least on our end, looks like is just discovering those things that work. Now, it might be a trial and error process for sure, but it's about coming to know those strategies as you go along.
Right. And you gave a perfect answer, because I noticed, from my mother, I know, and other people have been working with, because this has been kind of passion for me, working with people and talking with people who've been through this as well, is that whatever they like, that's what you go with. I know my mother loved flowers and plants, crepe myrtle trees, anything blue. She loved purple and pink flowers. And so I would make sure I kept those around, or take her for a drive where I know she's going to see those, and she'll look, oh, look at what, and she starts talking about those things. And oftentimes it was a distraction as well. And it's a good conversation to get her to repeat things that she said over and over and over again many times. I'd ask that question to take her back down those memory lanes for her, and asking questions that I already know the answer to, but she gets to talk about it.
And don't underestimate the power of the routine of daily tasks in those moments. Sometimes something as simple as folding laundry can be extremely helpful. Setting the table, doing the dishes, because it brings that element of routine and daily life back.
Absolutely. Sitting playing cards with my mother, which was stimulating for her brain as well. Old photo albums, sitting back for memories. Oh yeah, we went on the cruise, we did this, and oh yeah, oh, you should have known. I met a lady there, because we already know with the idea of Alzheimer's, that I find out that, the old memories are very vivid to them. They can't remember what happened 2 minutes ago, but they can tell you what happened 30 years ago, 40 years ago. And so I found out that was very, very helpful to generate that conversation, with this. We've been talking a lot about Alzheimer's and those types of things, but it's not just that, age about that part. What are some other areas that you all help with?
Yeah, so like I said, we take a really big holistic approach here. So our biggest primary thing that we do is that Council on Aging, at least in our county, really is a trusted source of information and assistance. Our goal is to connect those aging members of our community and their caregivers with relevant resources, because there's nothing more frustrating than being here, feeling alone, and not knowing where to go. So that's where we step in. We always say, just give us a call. If we don't have the answer, we're going to find someone who does. So that information and that resource part is a huge part of what we do. We also offer in-home services at no cost to many members of our community. So we'll have an in-home aide that visits our clients. They'll go in and they'll help them with those things like changing the bed sheets, cleaning the bathrooms, doing some cooking, doing light housework chores, or, running errands. Those things that are becoming really difficult as you go older and older in that process, that's where we're going to step in and say, you know what, we have a direct service. Let's come to your house and help you here in your environment so you can stay here. We also, of course, like I said, have our day program for adults with memory loss, which is amazing. And then we have our home safety program. We also do durable medical equipment and incontinence supplies. It's not the most glamorous thing on the face of the planet, but you would be surprised how many members of our community can't afford them. So we have incontinence supplies, walkers, rollators, wheelchairs, all available here at Council on Aging. And again, it's of no cost to our community members.
Wow, wow, wow. Listen, the things that you're sharing right now is right where the rubber meets the road. Daily living with individuals, their quality of life, going back to that. So what would you say about seniors who connect? Because we all know we like to have a social network. But as seniors get older, they start to lose friends due to death, illnesses, they have to move because family members in other states move them away. So can you talk about how important that is that they have a social network?
Yeah, we cannot say enough things. Social isolation is a really big problem with our older community members, especially in our county here where we are a little bit more rural and we start getting out into the country where we will have older community members who may not leave their house at all. So social isolation is one of those things we take a deep, hard look at. And that's part of the service that our in-home program provides as well. So our in-home aides are doing those chores while they're there, but they're providing companionship for about 3 hours a week to someone who may not have access to it. So I always say, if we can be active, let's be active. Let's collaborate and work with our local senior center. We have an amazing one here, Bazemore Active Adult Center, where our older community members can go for free. And it's a wonderful facility. You can play cards, you can do pottery, you can connect, you can exercise. If you don't have that capability, we absolutely encourage some virtual forms of connection as well. But really, I think it is a testament to our responsibility as a society, especially those younger community members, to actively seek out opportunities to support our older neighbors. So if you have a neighbor who is older, maybe knock on their door. Just say hi, see how they're doing. If you're taking a daily walk and you have Miss Smith that's sitting on her porch every day, maybe just stop in and say, hey, I brought you some lemonade. It's our responsibility too to make those connections and do that outreach as well.
Man, that's great. That is great because it's kind of like this. One of the things that sometimes it's difficult to identify someone's shoes you haven't walked in. And so oftentimes I know doing, domestic violence counseling and other things I've done, I used to do trust walks, those types of things. But the idea of being young and not knowing what it's like to be older, I believe is giving them experience to go volunteer and work in a facility or volunteer in a place to help, even faith-based. And speaking of faith-based, do you all do any collaborations with other agencies to help in this profession?
Absolutely. Our county, I have to say, is truly amazing because I have never worked in a more collaborative environment anywhere else. So we are Council on Aging, yes, but we work so closely with all of the other nonprofits and supportive services in our county. We come together as a whole, actually formally about once a quarter with our interagency council, where if you are working with older adults, we invite you to come once a quarter so that we can come share our challenges, talk about our resources, and really rely on one another to provide the best service in our county. So collaboration really is key to a lot of what we do. We don't do it by ourselves. I wish we could take all the credit, but we absolutely don't.
That's right. You mentioned this is a nonprofit, so where do you get your funding?
Well, I would be amiss as fundraising manager not to say that we seek donations. So we do have a pretty diverse pool of funding, but when we're really looking at it, most of our funding is coming from individual donors. We have a very giving community, but like I said, with our growing population, we don't have enough now and we need even more for the future. So we absolutely accept donations, would love to have them. And all of everything that we accept goes directly back into the community.
Right, right. And that means you have fundraising drives and those types of things as well, correct?
We do. We absolutely do.
Because it sounds like you have moved from the direct care into this new role of fundraising manager. I'm sure that's because like everything else, the backbone of everything is the funding.
It is, and it's been an adjustment moving from that direct care to more of the funding side, but it really is a great fit because I always say that fundraising is just the physical form of advocacy. So
Yes. Well, listen, I want to talk a little bit about the ethical and emotional aspects of things. How do you handle ethical dilemmas that may arise when working with elderly clients or Alzheimer's patients? Because I know you and I, we're well aware of ethical things, but how do you handle some of those?
I have to say that the gray area in that is always the hardest because that's where we live. We are always existing in that gray area. So one of the primary, ways that we deal with that is consultation. I cannot say enough about reaching out to my colleagues, to other agencies, and really learning those best practices and applying them. However, it's a case by case basis because, again, it is a super gray area, but we take all of the consideration and checks and balances when we're doing that.
Yeah, because I know with the word, confidentiality, we always talk about that word because there are situations sometimes where there's a battle, a struggle within family
Yes.
dynamics, and one family member doesn't want the other family member to know what's going on,
Mhm.
and another person may come and ask and want to know, well, what's going on with my mom, and they want to know things that are personal and that in battle struggle that perhaps your agency, you all may find yourself in the middle of a legal suit going on between individuals, family.
I think the biggest ethical tool we have in our toolbox is the power of referral and staying in our lane. So although we have the capacity to provide a lot of assistance, we also have the recognition when things might be getting outside of our scope. But because we have access to all of the resources in the community, we just take that step back and say, I'm sorry, we are here to support you. This may be better suited for another organization. So don't underestimate the power of referral.
Right, because oftentimes, we don't operate ourselves in a vacuum.
Mhm.
We're part of the community. Every agency that may be engaged in this, but if you were to take a look at this now, working in this profession where you've chosen for it, is this something that you would think somebody who's interested in coming in this field, what would you recommend for them?
Absolutely. I say volunteer, volunteer, volunteer. One, it's needed. We need it desperately. And two, it gives you that experience, that hands-on experience working with our age demographic. I always say if somebody is entering the field, absolutely consider gerontology, especially if you want job security. Because like I said before, we are all aging. So get that hands-on experience, volunteer as much as you can, and find a mentor. Reach out to someone who is actively working in that field. Pick their brain, ask their questions, meet them for coffee or lunch, and just don't be afraid to ask as many questions as you can.
Great. Hey, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
I've known for a while now that inflammation, brain fog, low energy, and gut issues were all connected. But I honestly didn't realize how much I was out of balance and wasn't firing on all cylinders until I felt what it felt like to actually fire on all cylinders. I love the way I feel, and I genuinely look forward to taking these products every single day.
I love the Healthy Edge pack. It allows me to be more energized throughout the day. My recovery time from the gym is better, and I just feel a sense of well-being and vitality. My sleep is on point. I get restful sleep because a lot of people sleep but they don't get restful sleep. That combination of P84 and Protandim is a 1-2 lights out punch, guys. I love it.
My hormones were out of whack, my gut health was bad, my sleep was off, my energy was off. A friend reached out to me, talked about a little yellow pill and a couple packs of powder. My health has never been better. My number 2 is great, if you know what I mean, and your number 2 does not lie on how your gut health is. These little packets of powder and this one little yellow pill has completely changed my health.
After introducing the Healthy Edge stack, something clicked. I'm sleeping soundly now. Restful nights, waking up refreshed, feeling renewed, digestion regularity. It feels amazing. And if you're listening, here's what I know for sure. Small, consistent choices compound into a life you're excited to live.
If you want to learn more about the Healthy Edge Stack, simply go to mauricemcdonald.net, MauricemCDonald, and learn about that Healthy Edge Stack. Do it today. Hey guys, we're back again talking with Christina Olmstead from the Council on Aging in Union County, North Carolina. And listen, we've been actively engaged in this conversation. I know you've been inspired and also educated about this topic about being older. You know, she mentioned the terminology earlier, gerontology. Listen, if you keep breathing, you will get older. And if you are now a child and you are 30 years old or 35 years old or 40 years old, that means your parents are senior citizens, okay? And they still want that role to be your parent maybe. They think, as my mother told me, I'm your mother. She reminded me constantly, I gave birth to you. You don't tell me what to do. You know, even though she had Alzheimer's, everything else, and she would challenge me. And we talked about support group. We've talked about getting your counseling, individual counseling, faith-based counseling necessary, whatever it is, talk to somebody. And if you haven't been through this, Christina, if somebody says, well, everything's great now, my parents are in great shape, everything else, I don't need to think about these. What are some of your thoughts?
I would say you're wrong. I would say 100% you're wrong, because the reality is that nobody plans on being a caregiver. And that's why having a caregiving plan is so important. Because when it comes down to it, we are one heart attack, one stroke, one diagnosis away from caregiving. So please be proactive. Don't think that you don't need it right now, because now's the time that you need to start implementing those things.
Yeah, because I'm listening to this and I wasn't prepared, you know, and I'm thinking, and it was thrown upon me from 2006 to 2015. My life was upside down, taking care of 2 elderly parents. One passes away, one diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and that journey, I was thrust into it. And hey, it was on-the-job training, and I needed counseling. I needed everything else. So I'm being very transparent today, and I was very, very, it was very intentional for me to talk about this topic, because it's one that people don't talk about until it happens. having to deal with an elderly parent who is aging, of course, and ill, and you have to get agencies involved, and you got to get resources involved. And there is not a book that says, okay, first you do this, and second you do that. No, it's on the job living that process. So, what would you suggest to people who are listening? You just said about start to plan, but what else would you suggest to them to go to do to help them in this process?
So definitely be proactive. Definitely start the plan. Start those conversations now before there is a diagnosis. And it doesn't have to be a formal conversation. Just, hey, mom, what were you thinking about, 5, 10 years down the road? What does that look like to you? Let's just start having those conversations now. I am of the opinion that you can never have enough information. So I love research. I know not everybody loves that, but take 5 minutes and just Google some resources in your county. But do it before you need it. So that way, if something arises, you can say, hey, you know what? I remember a few months ago, I was doing my Google search and I remember this one organization. Let me reach out to them.
Right, because I believe there's a lot of resources in every community, no matter where you live. You mentioned about the Council on Aging, but if you look at a lot of times, there may be some faith-based programs, that can help or have some other resources in partnership with you.
The faith-based community here is very big. I know that there are several churches in our county that have groups that are specific to caregivers. They're specific to older adults. So if you are faith-based, reach out to your local church. I am willing to bet they have a program.
Yes, and as we well know, this issue isn't because someone has money or someone doesn't have funding, or because this affects you no matter what age, what race, what socioeconomic level. We're all in this together, and getting older is the plan. That's usually the plan. You want to get older, but there are some other things that come with it, with this topic. And I just know that there's someone listening right now who's found this conversation to be very thought provoking. What could you say in terms of somebody wanted to maybe send you an email or something, to reach out to you for some more, not necessarily advice, but for some more help? How can they reach you?
So you can reach me by email. It is my last name, which is Olmstead, Olmstead, at coaunion.org. And you can also find Council on Aging online just at regular coaunion.org. So definitely feel free to reach out to me.
Absolutely. Hey, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy day to come into the studio and to have this amazing conversation and enlightenment, because I do believe you sparked some thoughts in the minds of some individuals in our dialogue that we have here. And this hour goes by so fast, but I thank you for your time, and I'm so proud of you. And I know you're walking in your gift. And I'm so beautiful. I'm overwhelmed that you're doing this. But anyway, thank you again so much for this. Hey guys, listen, this has been the It's About You radio show on WDRB Media, the voice of the community. We will see you next Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the It's About You radio show. We'll see you next week. Take care. Have an amazing week, guys.